Okay, well, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So, this is the first ever recording happening, and I'm not sure which order it's gonna come out onto the air, but yeah, I was super inspired to create this podcast to just talk to people who have really explored their passions, have really explored what it's like to live from like full life force, and whether that's in exploring something new or for you, like I've watched you do that, and in like anything from athletics to discovering things about food to, so many different inner explorations. And so I really just want to drop in today, and I would love to hear a little bit of your story. And then let's just drop into a conversation. I think the style here is less like interview and more like let's just drop in as we normally do and see what comes through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Kevin and I like to go on long, epic, 7-mile, 10-mile walks when we're both back in our hometown.
Just wherever we go, wherever it takes us, wherever the conversation takes us.
Yeah.
For sure. And it ends up being like 4 hours.
It ends up being like 4 hours.
In the most random places. Like forests and schools and parks.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods. So it's always good.
We ended up at our junior high balance beam once. Shit, we gotta go back there today.
Yeah, we do.
Let's do that after.
We'll walk there.
Yeah. Watch that in the vlog.
Oh, man.
Oh, perfect.
I love that. Let's see if you could do the iron again, or the little cable.
Oh, yeah.
Cable walk.
Yeah, the cable walk. I think I quit out a little too early. Let's see if I've grown. It's been 6 months.
Yes.
But yeah, Kevin, so, I love your journey that you've lived as a human. I feel like you and I both, which I relate to, have lived very untraditional lives, and we've really followed our own paths. And so I'd love to hear some of your story. So you went to high school and then you entered the professional baseball world. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's an honor to be on the podcast, first podcast, and it's an honor to be with my friend Lizzie. So really cool stuff. But so the journey from there was, baseball was always a love of mine. Sports was always a love of mine. I was blessed with athletic ability from, my dad was a baseball player, so I think that was kind of ingrained in me. Was hey, he made it to pro baseball, I could do the same thing. I kind of saw that as my father growing up. So I think it was always in me that I am going to be a professional baseball player. And at the time, there's all these obstacles and all these challenges that you're presented with along the path. But that was my first, I would say that was my first big vehicle to learn what faith is, and to learn that if you have a vision of something and you feel like it's yours to go and get, that nothing's going to stop you to going and getting it. And that's what carries you along the journey to achieving that thing. But it's also, I think, what is needed to make you grow in this life. So that was, I think, kind of my first vehicle.
Yeah, what was that like for you? Knowing it was something you were going to do, and then what was the process of showing up for it like?
Yeah.
That inner journey, and even just the outward, getting up and being disciplined to practice and show up for that. What was that experience like, and what was driving you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a really good question, and I don't even know if I really even know. But I'd say the best way to put it, and it's funny because I talked to one of my good buddies about it, but we had to ask the question of what is that thing that is making you go and do that, and carrying you to go and do that every single day. And it's almost I remember we had talked about it when I was doing, working with you and we were doing the mentorship, but it's what is most true with you, and what feels on the deepest level, right to you. And again, for me, in that frame of my life, it was always like tunnel vision on making it to the major leagues, and it was just nothing else was stopping me from getting there. And like, it's almost like it's going to happen in a way, like
Yeah.
it's going to happen, even though like there's doubts that come, and like there's doubts, there's in that vehicle of athletics, there's injuries and there's setbacks and there's things not happening that you thought it was going to happen, and all that stuff is almost like, it's like, okay, that's going to happen, but again, there's a knowing that there's that end goal that like you're going to get there no matter what. And I think that's fair to say in a lot of things, right? But yeah, I think the drive was just, and as I continue to learn, I think it was just a deep love, a deep love for, I don't even want to say baseball because I do love baseball, but it was like something deeper than that. That was like, that's carrying you in that journey to achieve that vision,
Yeah.
like a deep love of, that you have for family and friends, and like the people that you grew up with, and the people that have pushed you and made you who you are, made yourself who it is, and like you want to give back, and like that's your way of showing up, is like putting that in every single day. And it's like, deep down inside, you don't want to disappoint. Obviously, you can't really do that, but like that's, I think the way I kind of thought about it was like, hey, I want to like give back, and this is my
Yeah.
way of doing that. Even though that's kind of like, it doesn't, if you just look at it, you're like, okay, how does that make sense? But like, people feel that.
Yeah.
People feel that when you're like freaking going out there and just grinding and doing it. Like, people, like, that ignites people.
So do you feel like it was that deep love that kind of carried you through to
I think
like
so, for sure.
show up for practices and
For sure.
show up through that journey? And then through doing that, I know that through that journey you also discovered deeper parts of yourself. Like, what was some of that self-discovery, and how were you able to then like honor yourself when it shifted?
Yeah. Yeah, deeper parts of myself. I would say it was a journey to finding like the sensitiveness in me, and like there's that male side that wants to be the best and wants to, is competitive and is driven. But there was another side that wanted to be felt, and it was that side of, as much as that other side is very important and is needed in that, especially in athletics, in that profession, there's also that other genuine side that, wants to have a genuine conversation with somebody, wants to be loved, wants to share their feelings and their emotions. And that was a huge part of my journey to there, because in that vehicle, in that athletics, it's hard to find that other genuine side. So I used other outlets to, I think, propel me on that journey, whether that was writing. Writing was a huge thing for me, and just writing deeper thoughts or emotions that I might feel, was writing and like sharing that with people. That was always really big for me. And then other teammates, kind of felt that too, and we would share that. But deeper relationships with people, and just like a search of myself, and like finding out like, hey, what is that lack that I'm feeling, and like how do I feel that, and like finding out all these other tools, I think, and that was again a start into that, for
Yeah. Yeah. To continue to
sure. Yeah.
discover, like, yeah.
It's like a journey to finding, God in a way. Like, it's like a journey to understanding and like finding that deepness. And again, it's just learning. It's all just like learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Say more on what that was like for you, and the like faith aspect, and the just
For sure. It's
trusting
like,
something deeper.
yeah, for sure. Because I think that it's like that true fulfillment, really can't be. It's like all these other things are almost external, right? But there's something deeper driving you, and all these other external things like are just checkpoints or landing spots along the way, right?
Yeah.
But like you learn that like there's a bigger force at play, And again, uh, when you get to that next checkpoint, you're like, okay, like that was cool, but like that wasn't it. You
Yeah.
know? that wasn't fulfilling me like I thought it would. And I tell this story a lot, but I remember 2018 was my first year making it to the big leagues. And I was only up for a little bit. But
What team did you play for? You were
I was on the New York Mets.
New York Mets.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, it was like you had accomplished what everybody called the dream, right? Like the dream of making it to the show. And I was so empty after I made it to the show because it was just like I went up to the show, I went up to New York and I played and I got to, my family was there and it was the biggest blessing. I don't mean I was empty from that aspect because looking back, it was such a blessing to have family and friends come out and watch me play and all that good stuff. Like I would never trade that for anything.
Yeah.
Got to like see what that life was all about, private planes, everything was just awesome. But when I left the big leagues and went back down to AAA, when I got moved back down, I remember I was standing in the outfield being like, now what? Because like that was like my God, right? I was like, this is going to be it. I'm going to be content and everything's going to be good to go. But like, it was like, man, like there had to be a bigger drive and a bigger force at play because that just showed me that like, hey, there's something bigger out here that you want to get after, and like,
Yeah.
although this was a great vehicle to help you learn that, this isn't the end all be all.
Yeah.
So, looking back, I wouldn't change any of it for the world. It was amazing, and I'm super blessed for it all. But I could have wished I could have more of this perspective now. The growth and the maturity of it.
Yeah,
so it's cool.
That's what we find along the way,
No
and
doubt.
I think what every one of us will continue to find throughout our lifespan in unexpected ways. And I think it's a cool testament, your journey of like allowing that force to guide you, and then also listening to that force when it guided you in a different direction. And I think sometimes that can be challenging for people if they've invested so much into something to then feel like, oh, I've invested so much into this thing, like I have to stick to it. I have to stay with it. I can't stop because I've put so much behind it. And what I really admire in you is you invested so much into something. You found the success there. And when it was time to shift, you listened.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful and allows one to then explore more parts of themselves and what they're here for. And, just because you've put so much time into something doesn't mean that you're meant to stay with it forever, but it might be the thing that got you to the next place for then you to for you to be able to lean into something deeper and bigger and explore more parts of yourself. And so I think you really embody that in listening and trusting, and when you chose to expand out of that industry and out of that career and like go deeper into yourself because that was what was right for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want me to touch on that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, it was for me, and exactly what you said, and it's so easy to get caught up and play the story of, I think that could be very easy to say that it's all out of fear to like stay in something because you've done it for so long and you're comfortable with it and you know it well. I mean, I would be lying to say that I still don't do that at times. I think we all do it. And you might need that sometimes in your life where you go back to something. And I don't think that being comfortable in something is a bad thing either, because you might really love it. I mean, I really love baseball. But it was like there was something else I needed to explore. There's something else out there that it was like baseball at that point had served its course in my life. And it was, the more I grow older, the more I just understand how epic baseball is and how much I love it. But I had, for who knows, I mean, probably since I was a kid, had found out the first time in my life, had quieted my mind and like kind of woke up and was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like woke up from the game, woke up from the all the thoughts that weren't really necessarily mine, but were maybe planted in me that I was holding on to for so long. And when I quieted that, it was like, wow, there's more here. Like as much as I love baseball, like I'm not just a baseball player, and I'm not just that's not who I am, right? It's like part of my identity, yeah, for sure. But I think that I understood that before that, but I didn't really understand it at that level. It's like when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And you could hear it all you want and like ingrain it in your mind and believe that for sure. But like when you know, you just know that like that's not who you are. So when I noticed that and knew that, I
Yeah.
knew that's when I knew it was time
Yeah.
to try something new.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I learned it; it's like I knew.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that distinction of recognizing that being a baseball player wasn't your full identity and self.
Yeah.
And
sure.
though it can be a great passion and love, we're not limited to just like one identity or what our career is or any of that. And it can be a part of us, and it always will be, or a part of a way of expression
For sure.
and passion.
For sure.
But it's, I love that you were able to find that and then also go, and there's more to explore here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continual unfoldment. And then you really dove into some deep inner spaces.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what was that like, being, in the professional baseball world, and then like discovering things about health and like meditation and like going into yourself, and like what was that like juxtaposition like and journey like and like
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. A whirlwind, to say the least. Altering between a leaf in the wind and a rock hard totem pole, back and forth.
Yeah.
But so much learning. For me, it was starting off with, a great buddy of mine, one of my best buds, gave me the tool of fasting and fruit fasting and like extreme fruit fasts of like, days and days at a time of eating fruit. And that was like, I guess, a tool to uplift me. And then from there was game on. It was like, I want to learn more. And it was, again, like, learning how to just quiet the mind with different tools, whether that be, breath work, meditation, yoga, all that stuff.
What did you really discover for the first time when you gave yourself that space?
I think real peace. Real peace and a real awareness of connection, and understanding myself from taking a step back from myself and learning like why myself was the way it was. And I mean, again, it was extremes. Like all I want to do is fruit fast when I first found it out. And, I was in Florida and I was rehabbing my hips at the time because I had double hip surgery. And I went really deep with it. And I would like go out I did like an Airbnb at it was like an Airbnb for campers at this woman's house. And I just planted a tent out there and was going to do like my own little retreat of like just eating fruit and living out of the tent with like no phone or just a journal and just deconnecting. And that was a funny story because it was really hard for me to surrender because the woman had just told me that a pack of coyotes like nibbled off a huge chunk of her mini horse that I was sleeping right next to. And at nighttime I heard the coyotes like howling and they were just so close to me, and like I didn't really have anything to fend myself back, so I wasn't able to surrender. So I left at like 3 a.m. But the whole night, it was just with me and my thoughts,
Yeah.
and was able to kind of find a quiet place in that night. So that was cool. But just little things like that, little like voyages out, camping, or little journeys out. I went out to Denver for a couple months and just hiked all the time, fasted a lot, went out in the mountains, and just, was just kind of able to ride the high for a bit, which was much needed, I feel like, to ride that high, because I had been in this space with baseball for so long in my life where I was just like grounded on I call it like a rock formation, because you're just like so grounded, because you're trying to achieve that role and that dream. So like you are anything that like is trying to lift you from that, you just deflect. You like deflect it off, and like you're so determined to achieve that goal, which is a huge blessing, right? And you have to have like a tunnel vision to do that. So anything that's trying to uproot you, like you're able to deflect it off. But that's exhausting, and like you really sometimes need a break. So like I think I needed in my life, it was due for me to like come up from that, which was the journey, and like to ride that high, to like find that balance. So yeah, I think that from what I have learned, I think that it's fair to say that there's a genuineness in both,
Yeah.
And like both are kind of needed sometimes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on where you're at and what
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
breaking out of. And would you say that like the moment where you were able to really start like witnessing yourself outside of yourself was when you were able to then make different choices
For sure.
or transition out of
For sure.
things?
For sure. I was able to, and it definitely, like, if I think about the last like 4 or 5 years, it's been like just so much practice, because at the beginning I was still just attached to like a high and be like, yeah, this is it, this is the ultimate. And then like 2 weeks later, I'd be like, that wasn't it, that was far from it. But
you got to explore it.
got to explore it, and
Yeah.
I needed to do that, those things for sure. But what did you say?
When you were able to really become a witness of yourself.
Yeah.
And like,
Still every single day learning. Every
Yeah.
single day learning to do that. Like, I don't think that will ever end. And some days I'm really bad at it.
yeah.
But I think those days I'm aware that I'm bad at it, and I'm able to just like be okay with that. Because that in itself was hard for me to give up that control and just be like, okay, you don't have to. I think that you always want to keep your awareness, for sure. I mean, I think that's the battle in the game, and you want to. But it can almost be a lack of awareness in yourself when you're constantly judging yourself, because it's almost like you're attaching to that judge. So to be able to be aware that you turn that off is almost like a game in itself too, if that makes sense. So I think being able to witness myself and the patterns that I had in my life and where they came from, and still learning where they come from, is just like it's like the road to continually always be at peace,
Yeah.
no matter what,
Yeah.
in any situation, at
Yeah.
any time, right? I mean,
Be able to disconnect and unlearn them.
yeah, because I think that it's so easy to, it's very easy to it's very easy to detach and just
Yeah.
like separate yourself. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's so easy to do that. And again, that might be needed at times. But the real game is to be able to feel that without having to do it,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to dismantle those things is such powerful work. And I love what you said about like, being aware when you're not there and being okay with it, because I think that's a part of it too. It's like we're all in this beautiful process, and we've all learned so many things throughout society, throughout culture, throughout our upbringings, and none of them are inherently wrong or bad. They're just patterns, they're just choices, they're just different ways of being. But there's this cool process of getting to recognize, like, oh, I don't want to agree to that anymore, or I don't want to believe that anymore, and I trust something different. And once I'm aware of what that pattern is, I have a choice on, like, do I want to continue playing that out, or do I want to choose something different? And not because that was wrong, it was an experience, it was a choice, but because I know in my heart there's something more true for me. And I think it's okay to be in that process, and we're all in that process just by being human. And I think that's our own journeys here. And so to be in the hardness of things coming up and not, and getting to discover, I think, is such a gift. And no matter what that looks like culturally, societally, something I really admire about you is your willingness to keep exploring and find that. And I think that takes such courage. And the process is infinite. So to anyone listening, what would be some final words of wisdom that you'd like to share on just like following your passion?
I love that. Because if they have anything, send it my way too, because I would love to hear. But from what I learned and what I feel like I'm always testing out is when opportunities come up or you're about to go into something, you get it's almost like you get, excited about it. And that excitement, you could obviously take it as good or bad, and it can play with you, but constantly discerning, because there's been times where I've been like, man, this isn't it, but I gotta do it, and I did it, and it was it. It was yeah, this was what I needed, And then times where I've been like, this is it, and then it was not it. So I think taking those steps and understanding that if you go into it and it's not it, then that actually was it, in the long run.
Yes.
In the long run. And because it teaches you that wasn't it. So you don't gotta be, mad about it, but find the it's that thing that wasn't it. And what I mean by that is that you go into something and it's not what you expected it to be, right? And it's not what do you want to say? It's the energy of what you expect it to be. But it's not like that because you had to sanctify your mind to make it that. You have to make it that light that it was supposed to be, that energy, and that's on you.
Yeah.
And it's always on you to do that. And it's you can't rely on the position or the person or whatever that is to be that thing for you. It's always your responsibility to show up and put that work in. And I catch myself doing it all the time. I'll blame other things, and it's just me blaming other things is just an excuse for me not putting the work in. I mean, as hard as that is to do, but that's I think the real journey, and the real the real lesson that I think we're all trying to learn. And see everybody as imitate God and see everybody as that light, and not as what's being portrayed on the outside, but that because you know what they're doing, their light.
Yeah.
So I think continuing to stick to the genuineness. Lizzie and I were talking a couple scenarios before this of that there might be some things that pop up and test you, and they might, from a world perspective, give you a lot of money, or they might give you a lot of fame, or what might ramp you up in a certain way, and there might be something that's telling you man, this is just not right, and although there's an excitement there because it'll give you all these other things, but that it's not actually giving you that wholeness of what you are, what you live by, and what your true value and your core is, and what you feel you're here to do. So continue to stick with that, and follow that, because it's very easy to veer off.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Yeah, we do. And I love what you said in that of if you don't know and something is exciting you, even if you don't know where it's coming from, just do it's okay to do it and then find out oh, that wasn't it, but it always brings you closer to that deeper truth, or it
Yes.
always helps you to find more of what is true
Yeah,
within you
for sure.
by just
For sure.
like
Yes.
doing it. And that's something I really appreciate about you, is you take action on things and you try things and you explore. And I think that's such a gift, because in that exploration we're continually coming closer and closer, and it's not like we have to wait till we know all the clarity of this end-all be-all thing, because none of us are one thing. We're not limited by our career or by one thing.
Yep.
And each exploration is bringing us more into ourselves.
For
and
sure,
I,
for sure.
I think that's a powerful thing that I've gotten to experience and witness in knowing you. And yeah, and I think it's just a powerful reflection in general. So
For sure. And I also want to add in that I think those times,
yeah,
those times where like it's really hard and it just doesn't feel aligned are actually like, and I know we just said it, but like they're the times that you need, because they force you to surrender.
yeah,
I got knocked. There's been some times where I just got knocked down, and I got knocked down because I think I was telling myself that like I am so aligned, right? Like I'm so there, but I actually was just like so not there inside. So those times and those challenges, like for example, when I was working with people, I went on a new job. I was working with people that like didn't necessarily maybe have the same values as me or like the same beliefs and stuff, and like it was just, they were great people, good people, and were, genuinely I think wanted to do good, but like they didn't see things the same way I saw things, and it really forced me, it really challenged me to like let go of my preconceived ideas of what I think it should be, and like in doing that, like you like surrender again, like kind of brings you back,
yeah, yeah,
and like those times are so needed to kind of deconstruct that heaviness that you're holding on to.
yeah, yeah.
Just kind of like connect again, I guess.
Yeah, there's such powerful teachers and gifts
Oh
and
my gosh.
experiences. Like,
I've gotten rocked sometimes,
yeah,
but like every time
me
I've
too.
gotten rocked, it's like you come back with a new, stronger perspective,
Oh yeah.
and that new, stronger perspective helps you to surrender next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean-
yeah. So if you ever get rocked, we've been there, and you are so not alone. And I agree. Each time, like the times I've been rocked the most have been the greatest gifts. Like
Right.
they've allowed like me to get to the core of like really deep rooted beliefs about things, and really deep rooted things that I was holding on to. And those rocks needed to be as tumultuous as they were, and that allowed me to see it.
Right.
Do they always need to be that tumultuous? No, but when they are, great.
Yeah.
Great.
That's a
Like
great way to put it.
it's all your perception and how you choose to perceive it and what you choose to gain from it. And when you choose to gain the most amount of value from that, you will.
I think you do like a really great job of doing that, from what I see. And what are some ways that you remind yourself in those scenarios?
Yeah. When I get rocked, well,
I use rock a lot. I use rock a lot from different perspectives. It's a great word.
we've talked about the rocks a lot. I think there's always this knowing, even when going through things that are really challenging, and that there's a knowing always that there's going to be a light and an understanding on the other side of it. And there's a knowing always that there's something that is alchemizing that's really deep, and that knowing supersedes feeling, right? So their knowing might be there, that feeling might not be there at all. The emotional ride might not be there at all, but there's a greater knowing that goes, this thing is alchemizing, or this experience is playing out because I clearly need to see something or understand something or learn something that I can't yet see. And this experience is bringing me closer to see that, to understand that, to gain perspective, to gain insight, to be able to discover more of what I am and what I stand for and who I want to be and what I want to explore and create. And like, oh, each one, like in retrospect, and maybe I didn't feel it in the moment, in retrospect, those really hard times when it felt like all is lost and like all is lost, I've experienced that. Like, gosh, now I see them as actually like really high important moments, because it's like going to that depth then allowed me to bring so much out of it. And had I not gone there, I would not be able to bring out what I could from that. So I don't judge those experiences as bad. And I think in that it allows maybe more rapid transformation. However, they're not like, I think it helps to not try to rush the process, but to be with the process and go, this is really uncomfortable. This sucks. Like, I'm on my hands and my knees and I feel like, what the heck is going on? But what's here for me through this? What's the gift in this experience? What am I dismantling within myself? And then what am I choosing to step into from that? Because I think every experience is what we make of it, what we perceive of it, what story we tell about it. And I think being mindful of how we frame things within ourselves will allow us to extract a deeper value out of it. And so I think for me, that's always been a really helpful tool in navigating the ship rocking. And it rocks sometimes.
For sure.
But then
the ship rocks when you get rocked. You gotta be a rock.
So rock on, folks.
Rock on.
Into your epic adventures. Yes, rock on. And thank you for being here. And may you have an epic sail wherever you are.
Absolutely.
On your journey.
Yes.
Yeah. Peace out.
Peace out. Enjoy.
Peace out. And thanks, Kevin, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.